was listening to John. Hello?
Hello. Mila, what have you got for us today?
Yeah, I was listening to John, and can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was listening to John and his insistence of lack of believing. But what I think might be interesting to adopt as a new platform for atheists is to say, I do believe strongly that there is no God. So,
well, from my perspective, I try to build what I choose to believe based off of empiricism and the process of science is what we've actually tested, what we know is true.
What's demonstrable.
And what's demonstrable. And the thing about a lot of these religious concepts is that there's no evidence. In some cases, there's no real clear way on how to get that evidence.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of a lot of these claims is that they're non-falsifiable, that they overtly avoid having to deal with the sorts of questions which could either prove or disprove them. And I think that those sort of questions where if God moves around like a ninja and he evades every possible attack that you lay on this, like, okay, can we make this the evidence of this being demonstrable? Is there an it to talk about? And they start talking about how it's outside of time and space. It's like, okay, we're done. I mean, until you prove that there's something, anything of any degree outside of time and space, or that it's possible to be outside of time and space, I'm not going to take that as an answer. I take that as a, oh, can't see me moving the goalpost sort of thing. So,
I know. The only thing I meant.
Oh, go ahead.
The only thing I meant is that.
Could you turn on your set, please?
Them accusing us of being boring or whatever it is, if it's just stated with much more passion that you do believe that there is no God, and actually nobody is asking believers to prove that there is a God. It's just taken as a given.
Well,
so why not the same way for non-believers?
Well, I don't necessarily say it's the same kind of assertion. Not all atheists, for instance.
We have to prove something.
I don't think I have to prove anything. I think that it's not the job of the skeptic or the disbeliever to have to prove that something doesn't exist. The burden of proof relies on the person making the claim. I just simply reject the really bad arguments that I've heard in its favor because they don't hold up, because they amount to basically using choose-your-own-adventure logic or a riddle to try to define something into existence rather than demonstrating that it actually does. You don't have. It's more than just creating a hole in our knowledge where God will fit. It's proving that that hole is filled by God in the first place. I can come up with all sorts of negative reasons why, I don't know, like Zeus or Bigfoot doesn't exist. But it's not my job. My job is to actually prove positively in an independently verifiable way that it does exist. I have to provide something demonstrable about that. And I think that's the important part, is that it's not my job to disprove. And I also would mention that not all atheists take the stance that we have a positive belief there is no God. Atheism as a general definition just means the lack of belief in a God. It just means not theist. And you're going to get different takes on that. But again, I want to say thank you for your call, and we will hope that you watch us again in the future. Have a good day.
Appreciate your efforts.
All right, thank you. Should we try wrapping up our topic a little bit?
I think we ought, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important. We were talking about this wave of religious programming. There really is a Christian privilege that I don't think a lot of people understand that are in our culture. There is a tidal wave of religious programming, whether it's just Christianity alone. Let's just look at Christianity for the United States, since that's the dominant religion. There's a Trinity Broadcasting Network with 24 hours of Pat Robertson and people like him. There are 3 separate programs for Kirk Cameron and Ray Comfort, just alone, including Way of the Master. They're Catholic cable networks, countless channels that have exclusively Christian programming. And then there are the multiple radio programs, networks in religious programming in multiple networks. We also have, ignoring the fact that there's also local programming, the religious program for people like Casey Treat, Mars Hill, etc. And in an environment like that, people like Dawkins and Hitchens and stuff like that can only make a dent. They may write a book once every other year, but the books that counter them, even those books specifically, I can think of like 3 separate books written specifically counter just Richard Dawkins' A God Delusion. So, and you look in any Christian bookstore, the Christian section of the religious section is by far the largest one there, encompassing more books than the rest of the religious books combined.
Now, I do want to make a point here that one of the, like, what this show is about, why we personally have this show, is that it's not really, we're not evangelizing or trying to evangelize. We don't necessarily want to make you an atheist, and I'm not exactly certain that we're even capable of doing that.
It isn't our goal, certainly.
But what this show is about is to show you real, to atheists in your community, like us, and that we're friendly, we're human, we breathe the same air, eat the same food, and just to show you, to give you an idea of what our ideas are. Yeah. And there's other things that go into that, just the basic outreach, because there are a lot of atheists out there who don't know.
They think they're alone.
They think they're alone. I thought I was alone for a very long time. And if you if you think you're alone and you'd like to come out and meet us, right after the show,
4:30.
At 4:30, we will be at the Ram at what is the name of that
Northgate Mall.
Northgate Mall. I was going to say Westgate. That was wrong. Northgate Mall. And please stop by, have a drink, have a meal. Love to talk to you. As you know, come by, come friendly.
Definitely, yeah. You shouldn't come if your goal is to scream at us or hit us. But I guess when I was talking about just the glut of religious programming, I'm trying to create a context for where we are in this. That even when it comes to programs that aren't primarily religious, they are overtly religious. Bill O'Reilly may be primarily a political commentator, but when Christianity comes up, he becomes its champion. So you hear this message sort of over and over again. So we're entering into a media environment where you don't hear from us. And even when we do get media coverage, a lot of times we don't get the opportunity to speak for ourselves. Like I know when Richard Dawkins' book first came out, there was a segment on CNN where they spoke with a roundtable of people, all of whom were religious, about atheism.
That was like a week after the face-off thing. It was really part of it. Is first that, and I see us, and I'm like, anger. And then I see CNN's take on it, and they're, here, let's talk about atheism with no atheists. And they're like, oh, they set fire to things, and they have no morality. And,
yeah, you had two fundamentalists. One was Christian, one was Jewish, and then there was a sort of vaguely moderate Christian on the other side who ended up having to simply say, no, these people shouldn't show up. They have the right to simply talk. Where the other ones were talking about, oh, someone should shut them up. Yeah. And we weren't even allowed to represent ourselves in there and our ideas, where even the moderate was saying, oh, yeah, well, obviously they're wrong, but they have the right to talk. And that was the representation they got. I guess there was enough of a fallout from that they actually did invite Richard Dawkins on to at least speak in his own defense the next week. But that's sort of where we are, is that you don't have to say anything offensive to offend people with atheism. If you look, for instance, at the billboards, the really controversial bus ads in the UK simply said, there's probably no God, so just relax and enjoy your life.